on. I am beloved sublime. I am the ocean where all finally come. I am the one beyond time. I am the one beyond time. For I am the one who made heaven and earth, planets and stars up above. I am the treasure of infinite worth. I am the ocean of love. I am the ocean of limitless joy, infinite consciousness too. I am the music that never will cloy. I am the ocean in you. Oh, I am the ocean in you. For I am the one who made heaven and earth, planets and stars up above. I am the treasure of infinite worth. I am the ocean of love. I am the ocean of unending peace, limitless hearing and sight. You from your chains I have come to release into my ocean of light. Oh, into my ocean of light. For I am the one who made heaven and earth, planets and stars up above. I am the treasure of infinite worth. I am the ocean of love. I am the ocean of unbroken calm, infinite bliss I am too. I've been called Jesus and Buddha and Ram, and now Meher Baba by you, and now Meher Baba by you. For I am the one who made heaven and earth, planets and stars up above. I am the treasure of infinite worth. I am the ocean of love. For I am the one who made heaven and earth, planets and stars up above. I am the treasure of infinite worth. I am the ocean of love. For I am the one who made heaven and earth, planets and stars up above. I am the treasure of infinite worth. I am the ocean of love. Drown in my ocean of love. For I am the ocean of love.
Today, Baba, I'm just going to start with a brief bio of Kitty. She was born on August 28th, 1891. Her parents were John and Helena Davy, and she had many siblings. She was around 40, and her brother Herbert was a medical student. He was interested in spirituality and read quite a bit. During a quiet retreat from a school break, he went to East Chalicombe to be with Meredith Starr. Margaret came also. He urged Kitty to visit as well. On September 11th, 1931, Meher Baba arrived in Marseille. Kitty was part of a very small group to greet Baba for the first time at London's Victoria Station. During this visit, Baba stayed at their family home at 32 Russell Road, Kensington, London, England. Shortly after Kitty first met Baba in 1931, he asked her what she wanted. Without thinking, she replied, "An increased capacity to love and increased opportunities for service, and yes, spontaneous goodness. Meher Baba replied, "You will have all in a few days." When Baba returned in 1932, he stayed at Kitty's family home. In 1933, Baba invited 10 disciples from England and America to go to India for 6 months, but they only stayed 3 weeks before being sent back home. Kitty was one of those that went. They arrived in Bombay on April 6, 1933. They met Mera, Mani, Naja, Khorshid, and Valu. Mani was 14 at that time. Baba traveled extensively during the following years. In 1937, Kitty, Elizabeth, Norina, Rano, and Nani went back to India with Baba. They arrived in Bombay on November 20th, 1937. Kitty writes, "That same evening began my most treasured period, lasting over 15 years with Meher Baba and his Eastern group of women disciples. First in the ashram on Mirabat Hill, and later in the places which Baba took us to India. In 1937, Kitty lived with the others at Nasik. In December 1938, Baba and up to 30 women disciples began traveling over India in the special blue bus built for 16 passengers. The men Mandali traveled by train. During the new life, Kitty and Rana were given a choice to return to their respective countries or to remain in India. They chose to remain in India. Baba asked them to stay with Meherji's family in Bombay and to find employment. They had a difficult time finding work, but Meherji's wife suggested they contact the principal of their daughter's high school, St. Mary's High School. The principal, Miss Groom, hired Kitty. Kitty decided to teach English rather than piano. Kitty was so conscientious, she worked overtime so her students could acquire a thorough knowledge of English. Rana was hired part-time to teach drawing and painting. Unexpectedly, Baba called them two times, but in order to come, they had to be able to have their jobs back. Miss Groom agreed to their requests without any questions asked. At the end of their stay, they asked Miss Groom why she never questioned their requests for leave. She said she felt that Kitty and Rano changed the school atmosphere. On their last day, the students came with garlands and flowers for Kitty and Rano. In April 1952, Meher Baba left India to visit the US. Kitty was one of the women who traveled with him for the first visit to the Meher Center. Kitty said of the Meher Center, it was a miracle of his love. She was in Sarosha's car with Rano, Dr. Goher, and Delia during the Prague, Oklahoma accident. The last direct orders given to Kitty by Baba while in his presence were to help Elizabeth with the work at the center, to keep it in 100% order, ready for his return, and to be her right hand in any way helpful. In 1955, Kitty writes, "One of my dreams for the center was a library of materials by and about Meher Baba. She gradually began collecting books, pamphlets, and other materials for a future library. At the time, they had been living at Yopan Dunes. But when Elizabeth built Aruba, she set aside a book room for Kitty. Eventually, the Saroja Library came to be. Saroja was Baba's Persian name for Kitty. Throughout the many years Kitty was there, she cared for Ruth White, who lived to be 100. On September 1st, 1959, Kitty wrote in a letter to Monty, "Ruth White is wonderful for her vitality. I think she must have a superb nervous system. I shudder to think what mine would be if I lived to be 90. In 1962, at the East-West Gathering, Kitty said and writes in her book, "I remember when it was my turn to come to Baba's chair. I asked Baba if I would be returning to India to stay with him. Erich translated Baba's gestures and said I was to remain in Myrtle Beach and help Elizabeth. I knew then, and I think that others too felt, that we were not going to see Baba again. In fact, Baba did say to one that we would not see him again. This," Kitty said, "was the saddest day of her life." Here are a few words said of Kitty. In Nasik, Baba said to Kitty, "You love me for love itself." To others, he said, "Tell Kitty she's wonderful in all ways." In a letter sent from Satara on December 27th, 1954, Mani wrote of Kitty, "What we miss, dear Kitty, is your ready sympathy, encouragement, and enthusiasm at any and all times." When Baba asked, "Who do you take me to be? Do you wish to hold on to me till the very end?" he instructed each of the Mandali to give him a written and signed reply. Kitty's response was, "Your love brought me to you, your love has kept me with you, and your love will bind me to you till the end." Our generation and our children have been the beneficiary of Kitty's loving kindness and loving concern for each and every one. I would like to end by mentioning a wonderful YouTube I just watched, a tribute to Kitty Davy, given by Jim Meyer. He says Kitty Davy had this incredible quality of immediately endearing herself to anyone who met her. He includes that Charles Haynes said she was there for everyone. It's very true. Jai Baba. Now, Cathy will share.
Jai Baba. I'll go ahead and set
Is
up.
that my?
I'll put your PowerPoint up now.
Ruth, is that?
Here we go.
Could I ask a quickie
Sure.
before we start?
Yes.
Jai Baba, everybody. Dana just said somehow she really wants to be on this meeting and she was somehow locked out. Is there a way that somebody can
No
help
worries.
Dana
I
here?
unlocked it. I don't know
Good,
why.
good. Okay, thank you.
Yay.
It's such a treat to be able to share about our wonderful Kitty. So I thought I'd start today by sharing some of the photos that her family gave to me when I visited them in Canada after Kitty passed. So they gave me some of these wonderful photos. These were Kitty's parents, Helena and John. Helena was an amateur pianist, very good pianist, Kitty's first piano teacher. John was a printer, head of the Stationers Guild in London. Zilla, one of the nieces, said that he had that wry sense of humor, which we know Kitty inherited. So next we'll see the children who lived to maturity. Kitty told a family who told me that Helena had 11, let's see, she had 9 who were born, 3 died in infancy, and 6 lived to maturity. So you see Helena with Kitty, on the left side of that little round, lovely photo, Angela, and to the right, you'll see May, who was the daughter who moved to Canada, the mother of Zilla and Jenny. And you see John with Willie, Herbert, the baby, and Ernest. So those 6 lived to maturity. Here's a picture of Kitty with 5 of the 6, another photo given to me. So you see, let's see, I think, okay, so this was, I'm just remembering all these people here. Let's see, this is, okay, yeah. Ernest is on the left, Angela, the youngest daughter, May, Kitty is the one with her hands clasped, sitting on the little, yeah, there's wonderful Kitty, and Willie to the right. This was before Herbert was born, I was told. And then there's a lovely photo I was given of the 3 daughters who lived to maturity, Kitty, May, and Angela, in their teens. Isn't that wonderful? Kitty's beautiful long hair. And Kitty would talk sometime about being presented at court, and Helena Davy loved such things, Kitty said. So through friends in the upper realms of society, the next picture will show Kitty and her mother presented at court, and they were told that if you got there early, you could get to be in the room with the king and the queen. So they had waited in their carriage since, I think Kitty said 4 a.m. And they were lucky enough to be in the same room seated at the luncheon with the king and the queen. And Kitty would describe her yellow outfit and the feathers and what fun it was. The next shows, on the left, you'll see Kitty at her presented at court photo, and then a little later on, I think. And as some of you know, Kitty was very adventurous at a young age and went off to America and studied the Fletcher method and lived in New York for a while and went to Boston to study the Fletcher method, which she later taught with great success in London. So those are some of the wonderful photos, early life of Kitty. And as you know, Kitty was, I would say, almost you'd say surprised when she talked about it sometimes, about the good fortune she had to actually to meet that Baba came into her life. And that was such a beautiful thing that she said, that I'd like to share that part about what happened in 1931. After Kitty met Baba, he invited her and other devotees to join him and his ashram in India. She decided to go. Kitty said, usually people make changes because they are dissatisfied with what they have. However, I was perfectly happy where I was at the time, teaching music and Sunday school. Most of my family did think it rather strange and were upset that I should chance to go off with some Eastern mystic. I didn't choose the path. I didn't seek the path. It came to me. That was the extraordinary thing about it. So that was from a taped interview that Zilla, anyway, family had that interview that I chose to pick that beautiful quote from. So now I'd love to share a few photos from the Dilruba days. So when I came to work there, I was in my 30s. Kitty was in her 80s. I often remember coming into work tired, and Kitty would say, "Oh, I don't know, you look so tired. I don't remember being tired until I was 60 or 70. So she was a wonderful mentor. And one of the early funny Kittyisms that I love to share was her phone habit of picking up the phone. You would answer, and then she would say, "Oh, just a minute," and then you'd be completely forgotten. Many people remember that about Kitty and her phone habits. So one day I decided to stay on the phone just to see if Kitty would remember. I heard her leave the book room, go talk to somebody, maybe I think Jane was in the house, and then she came back, was talking to somebody, and I heard her starting to say, "Oh, yes, what is your name again?" And this fellow with a Southern accent said something like Jim Smith. She said, "Oh, Jim Smith." And he said, "I've changed my name to Sure Deal. I've taken a Persian name." And she said, "Oh, Sure Deal. Well, that's so interesting. You're taking a Persian name, and what do you do?" "I drive a bus in Birmingham, Alabama." And on they went talking, and all at once, whoop, 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 she picks up the phone. She says, "Are you still there? Are you still there?" I said, "Yes, Kitty. I just thought I'd wait to see what, if you'd remember that I was still there. I'm still there on the phone." And she said, "Oh, yes, yes. Well, I've been talking to this fellow who's changed his name, and he's taken a Persian name. And well, I'm much more interested in talking to him than to you." She would have the wildest ways of saying things, but it would always end up being a very cute Kittyism in the end. So the next picture I'd love to share is Kitty, younger Kitty, before we knew her, I think, before I knew her. And she talked about being full charge just to start cleaning up the forest. Many of you know that she did go out and try to clean up the forest of all the Spanish moss, and those following would see these big piles of Spanish moss and call them kitty piles that were, she was trying to clean up the 500 acres. And she was so full of energy, even at the advanced ages of 80 and 90, as we all remember. The next photo reminds me so happily of all the Jimmy stories, because Jimmy the turtle, oh, can you go back to, yeah, there he is. Yay, Jimmy. So Jimmy was, I think, found by Charles Haynes and inherited by Elizabeth, and he was a fixture in the house at Dilruba. And Kitty would say things like, "Now, Jimmy likes music. Would you go and put some music on, something that Jimmy would like?" And one day I was getting her up from her nap, and Kitty was so funny. She had put the Time magazine down on top of Jimmy by mistake as she was taking her nap. And when I came to wake her up, she realized Jimmy was under the magazine. She says, "Oh dear, Jimmy, I'm so sorry." And then she looked at me and she says, "Jimmy loves classical music." "Yes, he does." And I said, "Well, Kitty, how do you know?" She says, "Yes, I know. I know Elizabeth is not quite fond of that type of music, but there are two of us in this house who really love classical music, me and Jimmy." So that was one of my happy remembrances of Jimmy the turtle. And Kitty feeding him vanilla ice cream, which he loved. And the next photo I'd like to share is about Barbara Katzenberg and I would help Kitty, and this calico cat was always underfoot and meowing and driving us all loony. And one day Kitty took me in and gave me a special lecture about the calico cat, who she said, yes, I know he's got a low IQ. And then I laughed and she says, yes, I think he's got an IQ of 8. But, he was taken from his mother much too soon, and he may be a little neurotic, but he is very good cat, and you should be nicer to the cat. So Kitty was always helping us be nicer, to be more loving, as she was to everybody, people and animals too. So that reminds me of that wonderful conversation with Kitty about the cat. And here we have the next photo is of Kitty outside Dilruba with two of the good old helpers, Dennis McCabe and Malcolm Clay. And we came upon them once when Kitty wanted to go look at the damage after Hurricane Hugo. And there were Malcolm and Dennis sawing up fallen trees. And she says, "Oh, look, there's Paul Bunyan." She looked at Malcolm and she said, "I think I'll call you Big Bunyan." And then she turned to Dennis and she said, "Well, if you're Big Bunyan, I suppose, Dennis, you must be Little Bunyan." So that was her nickname for Malcolm and Dennis. So the next photo I'd love to share brings so many memories back because Evelina was the longtime cook at Kitty and Elizabeth's house, and her husband's mom, Bessie, had worked for Baba. And as Evelina said, yes, I cooked for the Baba. So she had met Baba too. And she was just a fabulous person. We would sit in the back and sometimes sing a spiritual or talk about how wonderful Miss Patterson was, or Miss Kitty. And she really made our lives so rich, and she loved them so much and served them so well. This was one of her birthday parties that a number of us who worked at Dilruba celebrated for her, with her. The next photo is many, many years of Kitty and Elizabeth and Jane being at the meeting place. They would give up so much. Often Kitty would be so tired. I remember especially, you know, after Elizabeth died, she carried on and would go often as she could, to the meeting place. I think this was after one of the birthdays. Everybody is, maybe it was a birthday for her, clapping for her and looking so happy. Lois, one of her helpers in the background, and Kitty, the belle of the ball. Everybody just would light up when Kitty would come into the meeting place. She brought Baba's love so much to all of us. The next is a sort of a later shot of Kitty. The next little slide I have, Kitty had this maroon coat she just loved, and it was all kind of beat up. And I remember once when her nieces visited, Zilla said, "Kitty, that is the most dreadful looking coat." Of course, she didn't have an English accent. I guess she had a Canadian accent. But she really said, "Kitty, take that coat off." Kitty loved that old coat and wore it to the end. This was one of a later years photo. She finally let some of us take her away from being at Dilruba and just go down to, I think it was the cabana, or maybe it was the lake. Anyway, we went, I think this was down by the beach, and we took Kitty down, and she had a rare day off, enjoying the sunshine. The next slide shows Zilla and Jenny, who would come visit from Canada. Zilla on the left, Jenny on the right, and they had met Baba in London when they were young. Kitty told me the interesting story that Zilla, the niece on the left, was sleeping in one of the bedrooms, and Baba asked Kitty to bring him to Zilla's bedroom where she was sleeping, and they stood there together, and Baba, I think she said, put her hand on Zilla's head and said, "She has much work for me to do in the future." And I just thought that was so interesting. In a future life, Baba knew that Zilla would be using her energies for him. And later in Kitty's life, who should show up but relatives from Canada, other relatives. Kitty's uncle's son's wife, Hazel Davy, and with the glasses on there, and Hazel's daughter, Lynn. And they were just thrilled. They had gone to England to find Davies, and were told, "Didn't you know there's a Davy right on your own continent?" And then they wrote, and Kitty was so happy to meet them and gave them history of her life, which I used in my book as the kind of the backbone of my chapter on Kitty's early life. And they were thrilled. They came back again before she passed. The photograph on the left is of Kitty, the first visit, and then this later when she was getting toward the end, they visited again. So this is a very lovely picture. I remember this day of Evelina wanted to come say, it was basically Evelina wanted to come say goodbye. And so this next slide shows Evelina and Kitty already in a wheelchair, and Evelina, and she held hands, and Evelina sat there silently weeping. I was too, for sure. Such an incredible moment. Evelina later told me that she had a very powerful dream after Elizabeth passed, and she had never shared it with anybody, that she saw Elizabeth running toward a man in a long white robe, a younger Elizabeth running joyfully into the arms of a man with a long white robe. So I said, Evelina, that's Elizabeth. And she had never thought about it. It was just this incredible realization that she had this vision of Elizabeth embracing Baba after Elizabeth passed. So those are some of my Dilruba memories. And I was thinking it would be nice to end with one of my favorite quotes from my book, which is so meaningful to me. We were, I think it was 1984, at a Southeast gathering. Kitty wanted to go to a ward workshop. I had accompanied her to the gathering, and when we went there, someone asked Kitty if she felt she had reached the point of love that we'd been discussing, of feeling love for everyone and everything, that omnipresent praise and awareness of Baba and his love in all things at all times, that state to which we are all aspiring. I watched fascinated as Kitty really took that very intimate question deeply into her being. She didn't answer for a long time. Everyone was very quiet. She stammered that she had never really thought about that before. Then, thinking very deeply, she slowly said, I don't really know. All I know is that I am always trying to please Baba, to think what would please him. Her answer was so honest, simple, so uncosmic, unmystical. It revealed to me the essence of the nature of the spiritual life. Kitty really isn't feeling inundated with bliss and waves of love, but she is always, always putting Baba first. She's thinking first of what would please Baba constantly, constantly. It really affected me on a deep level. She is so service-oriented, not really thinking or feeling bliss or love in rapt meditation. It's just caring and trying to please Baba and make Baba happy. She went on to say how important and beautiful the word please is, how it is very necessary and desirable to try in our lives to please Baba and make Baba happy. She said Baba would never say thank you to something that one of his lovers had done for him. He would always say he was pleased with one's love or pleased with what one had done. Thank you.
Dear Papa.
So far, so good. A lot of this stuff I've either forgotten or didn't know. The last story of Kitty talking about pleasing others. I remember one time early in the probably 1969, when I was working on the center, and I was in Delruba, and Kitty was flitting about doing 2 or 3 different things at the same time, and I was just sitting in a chair, and all of a sudden, the atmosphere around the room changed. It was, even for somebody as ill-equipped to understand what was going on as myself, I understood something was going on. And she looked directly at me and she said, "Tell me, are you happy all the time?" And I said, "No, Kitty, I'm not." She said, "Oh, that's your problem. Do you remember Baba all the time?" And I said, "Kitty, honestly, I can't say I do." She said, "Well, that's the problem." She said, "You try to please people all the time." I said, "Kitty, I don't think I do." She said, "That's the problem." And all of a sudden she went off and did something else, and I just sort of sat in a chair, kind of stunned, for 2 reasons. The first reason was that she was talking to me on a level that I needed to hear, and also on a level that I understood. And secondly, I understood that here was a soul who could talk to me like that because she indeed tried to please Baba all the time and tried to please others all the time and was happy all the time, not happy in the dancing, carefree way, but happy in the spiritual sense that she was living a life for others. She was extraordinary that way. So I hope that story means a lot to me. Did you want a song now, or did you want
I love a song now, sure.
Okay. Well, Kitty used to go, in the early days, we used to do concerts. I used to do a concert at the at Saroja Library, and Kitty would always like to go. So that was the real joy of doing a concert, was to go to Dilruba, pick up Kitty, and drive her to the library, and have her sit there. And sometimes it would be 8 or 10 people, sometimes 15 or 20 people. It was in the early days. And then on a ride back, she was funny. She would say, "Well, you were very good tonight. You only made 11 mistakes." She would, because she was a musician, she would count my mistakes just to let me know that I was improving. And so she had a bunch of songs that she liked. In fact, I used to sing them over and over again because I just try to please Kitty. And then she once told the group, "Jim only knows 8 songs," or whatever it was, because I would sing the same songs over and over again. All right, so here's a song I wrote for Kitty. I wrote it for Kitty and for Erich. I would tell the group that I wrote it for Erich so I wouldn't embarrass Kitty, but I really wrote it for her. It's called "Fortunate Slave," and it gets its title from the 3 Hafez sayings that Baba had read out, befitting the fortunate slave. Obey the master in everything. Here's the tale of the fortunate slave, obeys her master from the cradle to grave. So few could be so courageous and brave to live the life befitting the fortunate slave. Befitting the fortunate, she never questions the what or why. All she knows is to do or die. There is no task that she would not try to live the life befitting the fortunate slave. befitting the fortunate. I am the slave of my master who has freed my soul. Release me from the bondage of my mind's control. All he ever does, he does from love. So who am I to question what God dreams of? I only know his pleasure is my goal. His every whim and wish my begging bowl. And every humble effort that I gave was reward enough just to be his slave. Here is the tale of the fortunate slave, another bubble in the ocean's wave, whose perfect bondage made the master raise her to the heights, befitting the fortunate slave, befitting the fortunate. Her life's the message, her life's the goal. Her very being loves burning coal. There's no desire but to play the role, to live the life befitting the fortunate slave, befitting the fortunate. I am the slave of my master who has freed my soul. Release me from the bondage of my mind's control. All he ever does, he does from love. So who am I to question what God dreams of? I only know his pleasure is my goal. His every whim and wish my begging bowl. And every humble effort that I gave was reward enough just to be his slave.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jim. Hey, Papa.
Hey, Baba.
Well, I'm just looking to see, okay, if anybody would like to share a little bit about Kitty, some stories. I'm sure we all have them. Just if you would raise your hand electronically. I see Alan. There you go. Go ahead, Alan.
Tough act to follow, I would say. I met Kitty my first trip to Myrtle Beach in '71, and we hit it off perfectly. And when I would come to Myrtle Beach, I'm in the Northern California group, by the way, so it wasn't that easy. Come once or twice a year. We would go out to lunch to the, what's that place, the Sea Captain or the Captain's Table that she loved down there, Yupon Dunes. She'd always take me past Yupon Dunes, and she would dress up. And I had to bring nice clothes, which I didn't have. And she would put her arm on mine. And I was like her date, even though I obviously was young enough to be her grandson. And she had lipstick on and the whole makeup thing. It was so special. I have a lot of other stories, but time being what it is. In about 77, we were out to lunch, and she had an interesting way of asking you to do something. She wouldn't say, please do this for me. She would say, could you do something for me? I don't know if others had the same experience. It was kind of like a favor. Could you do a favor for me? He says, you know, when you go back to your group, meaning the Northern California group, I know you the best of all the people. Could you do something for me? I said, of course, Kitty. He says, could you remember in your group meetings the old timers? So meanwhile, she's about 86 years old at this point. I think she fit into the old timers category, but I promised her that I would. And interestingly enough, this changed my life. And when I got married 41 years ago, it changed Karen's life too, which is one of the reasons we're doing this event today and have done these other events in memory of the old timers. I began to have meetings, large meetings about old timers. And over the course of the last 40 odd years, Karen and I have had probably about 10,000 people at our house in memory of the old timers, the close ones. Some of you people have been guests at our house and so on and so forth. And that was because Kitty understood the way I was raised, perhaps, that we were inclined that way. When I became an attorney in the early 80s, I was with Kitty and she said to me, could you do me a favor? And I said, sure, of course. She said, what kind of law do you do? And because she thought I did everything. You know, people don't understand. They think you can do every kind of law. And I explained to her I was a personal injury attorney, which my mother called an ambulance chaser. And I explained to her how that worked, that we worked on a contingency basis and that way people of any economic strata could afford us because they didn't have to pay us unless we won. She said, I'm really happy to hear that because any rich person can hire an attorney, but I want you to represent poor people. Will you do that for me? So I spent the next 32 years or so before I retired 6 years ago, representing nearly 5,000 people, most of whom never could have afforded to compensate us for our work had they had to pay up front. So I've never told this to anyone, frankly, nor the prior story. In 1984, we had 2 children by then, and Karen got pregnant. And Kitty was very, very interested in this pregnancy. And in October of 1984, a child was born. And I called my parents, and then I called Kitty. And I said, Kitty, this is Alan. And Karen had the baby. She went, oh, very good, very good. She said everything twice, as everyone knows. And I said, yes, it's a girl. And she said, oh, very good, because she was hoping it would be a girl. And I said, and we've named her Catherine. She says, oh, that's my name, that's my name. And then I said, yes, Kitty, that's why we named her Catherine. And for the only time that I knew Kitty, for the 18 years that I knew her before her passing, the 20 years, she didn't say anything. There was a long silence. And it deeply touched my heart. She was very dear to us. In 1988, we were with Kitty, probably in the fall sometime, and she asked Karen, my son Matthew, who some of you know, had just turned 7, and she said to Karen, could you take Matthew to India to meet Mara? But we had 2 other little children, and I was working 75 hours a week, 6 days a week, night and day. She said, well, I can't really do this because, you know, who would take care of the children? Alan's working all the time. And I turned to Kitty and I said, I will do this. And I took Matthew to India over Christmas, the last 2 weeks of the year. As it is, it turns out that amazingly, there's not much business at that time of the year because everybody's off for Christmas break. And Matthew, then 7, now 39, had the opportunity to meet Mara and have tea with Mara. And more than that, Matthew and his father and me were able to sit behind Monty and Mara for the last play of Mara's birthday. And she passed 6 months later, as you know. So in many ways, in significant ways, in her kind of humble, modest way, she changed my life. And I want to say one final thing. I want to thank Karen for initiating this whole series of programs. If you're a Mondale and you die, you get a program after you, by the way. When Kitty wrote the book, and I hope Jeff tells the story of Love Alone Prevails, how that name came about. This is kind of before Shariar, so you really couldn't buy, it was hard to buy books. One day in the mail, a book came. And it was from Kitty, it was her book, and she was sending it to Karen and me as a gift. And she signed it, and I want to read to you what she said to us. To Alan and Karen Talbot, in their mother's love, Kitty David. Great soul. Touched my heart, changed my life in every significant way. Thank you.
Hey, Baba. Beautiful, Alan. Thank you. And we all are grateful to both you and Karen for all the work. I know Karen's done a lot of work just on this one time, just for Kitty. We're all so grateful for it. Thank you. And Karen wondered if David Biaggi would like to share. I hate to put you on the spot. If you would rather not, it's okay.
No, he's there for that reason.
Fine.
Why?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can wear.
Yeah.
Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba. Can you hear me? Okay. I can't hear you though.
No, I know. I
Oh,
muted my.
okay. All right.
A little louder, maybe.
For me? Okay. Let me go and make it louder.
All right.
It varies from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. So here. See, I'm putting it beyond where I usually sing on Sundays. So here we go. Is that better? Can you hear me now better?
Yes, sir. We can hear you beautifully, and we all want to know where you sing on Sundays, but go ahead.
Well, for over 20 years, I've been, you might say, the cantor pianist at this Oakland United Church of Christ church, where the first time I was ever in that church, Henry Cashaudy was giving a talk at the fireside room. And never thinking about, I'd ever be part of this church. And I learned later that Ron Greenstein had performed there, and Ben Lead had performed there. So Baba was priming the pump there. And Peter Ravazza was taking Raphael Rudd around because Raphael had this new double CD that they were promoting, and Raphael gave a concert there. And a couple days before that, Peter said, Dave, Raphael's going to be playing harp and piano, so could you go and check out the piano? So I innocently went in, and there was this nice Kawai Grand, and I started checking it out. And the pastor came out from his office, and he introduced himself. Oh, you sound pretty good. Can I have your card? So I just gave him the card. They already had a pianist, a very good pianist. And, but every once in a while, because the pianist's health was not good, he'd work a gig till 2 a.m, and then he'd call me on Sunday morning, and here I am at home reading the sports page or something. And he, Dave, this is Mark. Dave, could you take my place? So that's how it all started. And then finally, Mark moved to Texas with his family, and I became the permanent cantor pianist. And so in this wonderful church, they call us the Jazz and Justice Church now, the last few years. and we have some great people who come in, but I have sung many a guzzle there. I have done Baba's Arti there. The diversity of that crowd to this day is just phenomenal. And so every Sunday we Zoom together, and I perform, I lead them in, they're all muted, but I lead them in the opening hymn usually. Then I improvise my cantorial piece around the reading, and it's always different. And then near the end, we call it the virtual coffee hour now because you're at home. I'll sing something that's appropriate. So being Advent, it was pretty mellow through the whole thing, but the pastor said, well, could you sing something up-tempo? So I had just heard, in fact, Alan sent me the link to this great performance on the Sullivan Show. It was Ella Fitzgerald and Duke Ellington doing Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing. So there I am at the end of this thing, jazzing it up and scatting and singing and just having a ball, and they love it. And so that's that's the church, in Oakland. It's a great place, and Baba, I take Baba there, and we go for it. So anyway, getting over to Kitty, dear wonderful Kitty. I remember the first meeting at Dilruba, introduced myself and talked to her about my music and what I had done. And, I was part of this group, H.P. Lovecraft. We played the Fillmore East and West, and the West more. and many other big time venues. We were on the same bill with the Who and Donovan and the Airplane and, you know, on, these groups. And so she listened to me, and I so told her I was doing some graduate work at Northwestern in music. And she said to me something like, well, it shows that you don't need any counseling on drugs or any of that stuff, you know. And I said, yes, because I didn't like that stuff. But believe me, I saw it around me, and paid the price on 2 occasions because they convinced me this was okay. And so it got out of my system, and I kept saying Baba's name, and then, you know, got out of that, went back to Northwestern, got my degrees, and learned about Baba there in a very magical way. So anyway, after being at the center a couple times, someone had given me the copy of the East-West Gathering. And I read this book. I started reading this book at home, and I was working on my master's degree. And so I'd be practicing. No, I had finished my master's. I'm sorry. I'd finished my master's. I wanted to get a doctorate. And so I'm working on the Hammer Clavier Sonata of Beethoven.
When you go to the 6 a.m., there's no click here, huh?
Hello. Anyway, so the Hammer Clavier was my Waterloo. I'm from the age of 3 an accordion player, and I can play a Bach fugue, but there's this final movement of Beethoven. It's like a triple fugue in the Romantic style, and my left hand was crying out for mercy, please. I can't take it anymore. But I was determined. But I'd get tired, and so I'd put that book away for a bit and open the East-West Gathering to take a break. And there were these lyrics from God, Francis's beautiful lyrics. And I started writing song after song. And the ocean was the first one, and went on and on. And the Oh Glorious Eternal Ancient One lyrics, the Australian RT lyrics, I didn't know they were RT. They just said, this is the song of the simple praisers. I said, okay. So I wrote it out complete with multiple modulations. It was the most complex work of the effort. And so I finished that, and we recorded it, and the Baba Group in 72. And then we went down to Myrtle Beach to perform it. And here we are in the old meeting house, and everyone's there, crowded in. I remember it very well. And Kitty was there, of course. And we started, well, before our performance, we did an Ellis Pines play. I think it was called The Secretary. I could be wrong, but I think that's the one. And one of the characters in it is Mr. Greed. So we started performing, and I remember when we started The Ocean, the first big number of the piece, it started raining cats and dogs outside. It just wouldn't let up. It was just a torrential rain pour. And the minute we stopped the song, we ended the song, the rain stopped. And that was the end of that, you know. And I think Lynott looked around. He said, well, that's kind of good timing, isn't it, or something. And so we performed. And then after our performance, we all went to Dilruba for a little bit of supper, as you would call it, or a little afterglow party. And we had a great time. And it was about time to go, wind it all up. And there I am sitting at the piano yet. And Kitty says, I'd like to take the part of Mr. Greed. Would you please do the White Dove one more time? And of course I did it. And then everybody was leaving. And I remember Margaret coming by me, and I'm still sitting at the piano. And she silently looked at me with this great look of appreciation. I think it was the greatest compliment I've ever had in my life, musically. It was just Baba thanking us all for being with him. So that all comes to mind. And then, there's these little, I call them Baba synchronicities, Babanicities, if you will. I just finished, this morning, I finished the volume of Lord Mayhare. I keep reading it. I keep going around. It's only 20 volumes. So how many times have I read it? I don't know. Not that many. I mean, it's 20 volumes, but quite a few. So you finish the new lifetime, and Baba, he goes from, what is it, the complicated life to the fiery free life to the full life to fiery free life. And then right at the end there, it's life. This is February of 52, I believe. And his Mananash work is done for all of us. And I'm reading this morning. And so a couple of days after that, he says, now it's life. And it's February, it's my first birthday, because it was the old and new combined into life. And so a couple of days later, Baba took Mera, Mani, Meru, Goher, and Kitty and Murano, who had rejoined, who had come from Bombay to be with the women Mandali by then. And they all went to Happy Valley and had a picnic. And it must have been the most glorious time, because Kitty, excuse me, Karen, could you go in the other room?
Okay, Karen, talk to you later. Karen Talbot, David, she asked you if you could sing. They would like you to sing.
I know, but I'm talking now.
Well, she would like you to cut to the chase.
I got to cut to the chase. That's Karen Talbot's order. Okay. So I'm almost done. But I thought to myself, Kitty and Rano in Bombay had been separated from Baba through the new life. And at the outset, thinking they might never see him again. So here they were with Baba having this picnic. And now I'm cutting to the chase. Now you go to the East-West Gathering in 62, and Baba's leaving. It's the end of the East-West Gathering. And this is really the adieu. This is really the goodbye, because they're probably not going to see Baba again. And so in the East-West Gathering, this is the next to last piece of the book. I'll start now with Baba arriving at Bun Garden. He came at 8 o'clock. The sadness of this farewell for the Westerners cannot be described. None expected to see their beloved again, yet the sadness was made shining. For the sun of his love was in their heart skies and would remain there through deaths and births till they were absorbed into its reality forever. The arti was sung and he got back into his car, but the lovers would not let the car move. They pressed round it for a last look at their beloved's golden face and a last touch of his white hand. Imperceptibly, the car moved forward, stopped, and moved on again. In the time that it takes a man to walk a mile, it had moved 100 yards. At last it reached the road, and the lovers gave up their attempts to grasp and hold eternity in their small hands, and they fell back. And the car gathered speed, crossed the bridge, and disappeared, snapping the threads of their eyes, which streamed after beloved God to bind and bring him back. And now the song. I found a white dove, as white as the foam on the blue Pacific wave. I made him a golden cage for his home, so that he would never leave. A golden cage for my dove white as foam on the blue Pacific wave. A beautiful cage, so he would not roam, and I his dear sight should have. My lovely white dove his bright feathers shed and sang his sweet song no more. My joy and my love fell and lay as one dead, and so I opened the door. My lovely white dove fell and lay as one dead, because he was wounded sore. His breast was crimson from where his heart bled, and so I opened the door. My lovely white dove arose with a cry and sped like a shaft of light. Oh, beautiful dove, return from the sky and comfort me with your sight. Return, oh, return, my love from the sky, for you are my whole delight. Return, oh, return, with your sweet glad cry, and comfort me in my night. Return, oh, my dove, and pluck out the dart of love, or else I must die. Return, oh, my love, for I've made my heart pure space in which you can fly. Return, oh, my love, for to be apart means I must surely die. Return, oh, my dove, to the sky of my heart. There you can in freedom fly. Oh, Mayhair, my love, my soul. Jay Baba.
Jay Baba. Thank you. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Whew. Well, I'm wondering, I'd like to ask Wendy to speak. If you would unmute yourself. Good morning or afternoon now.
David, that was so beautiful. Thank you. What a beautiful rendition. Lovely to hear you sing.
Thank you.
Let's see. You know, I first met Kitty when I was 5 years old. So I have a lot of stories, but I'm not going to share all of those stories. Not enough time. First, I want to say how happy she would be with today, because I don't mean that you're celebrating the day she died. I don't think she'd be happy about that particularly. I'm just teasing folks. But what she would like, what she loved, was when everyone came together for Baba. And that's why she loved, you know, when at the center, everyone celebrated her birthday. Those of you who have been fortunate enough to have been here for her birthday celebrations, they were unbelievable here at the center. And the reason she loved them was not because you were celebrating her birthday, but because we were all coming together to be with her in Baba's love. That's what touched her heart so much. I have to tell you, the first moment I saw Kitty, I fell in love with her, and this is why. She came bustling to the screen door at Yukon Dunes. I was 5 years old. I was all dressed up in a pretty little white dress. And she comes bustling to the screen door and says, oh yes, you must be Wendy. Oh yes, I'm Kitty. I'm Kitty. And I said, oh, Kitty like a kitty cat? And she goes, oh, yes, like a kitty cat. Because that's what she would do. Many of you have seen it. When she got really tickled, she would hold her hand up like this. She had to get really tickled, but it was so cute. So I, from that moment, you know, was just captivated. I thought, have I missed a lot of Kittyisms? Have I missed any Kittyisms?
Just a few. Only a few Kittyisms. I think Cathy told one or two. And
good. I'm glad. I love them so much. Everyone does. But I have one I want to share, and then I'm going to share something serious, and then And don't let me go on too long, guys, because it's too tempting. So please don't. Let me see. Oh, yes. Oh, so the kittyism. So Buzz and I are living in Virginia, and one day the phone rings, and I pick up the phone, and it's Kitty. She said, no, I got it wrong. I called Kitty. First I called my mother. I heard that my mother's eyes were bothering her. That was it. Something was wrong with mother's eyes. So I called mother, couldn't get her. You never could, which was so busy. So I called Kitty, which was always the backup plan. I called Kitty. Kitty, I hear something's wrong with mother's eyes. And she says, oh yes. Not to worry. She's going to be fine. She went to the optimist and he said that everything was going to be perfectly all right. Isn't that wonderful? So Kitty, and she didn't even know it, of course. That was part of the charm. I said, Kitty, did you mean optimist or ophthalmologist? She said, oh, did I say that? Oh, so cute. Well, the story I wanted to tell you, one day I was sitting in the book room, Kitty's book room, and yes, the mail had come. Now, Cathy may have mentioned this already, but in the later years, the highlight of Kitty's day was getting the mail. And she'd be on the lookout for the little white truck, little mail truck. She'd go, oh yes, I'm sure he's come. I said, no, Kitty, I don't think it's time yet. Oh yes, I'm sure he's come. And so I'd say, all right. So I'd run out and get the mail. I'd come and it would be there. I'd bring it in. And the routine was she would read the mail to herself. I would leave her alone. She would read the mail. And when she was ready, she would call me. So this is the year that I was living in Del River, 74, 75. So I was staying in the back double guest room, which is now my husband's office, which is pretty cool. So she would go, Wendy, and I'd come running across the house. Yes, Kitty. Yes. Oh, yes. Wonderful letter. Read this. And she'd already read it. And she wanted me to read it out loud. So I would read the letter. And this one was from Dr. Billy Baum. Many of you know him. He was a professor at Harvard at the time. And he was one of the fortunate ones to have an ongoing correspondence with Kitty. One of the reasons is because she loved etymology. She loved to know the meaning of words, and so did Billy Baum like that. So he would occasionally send her the meaning of a definition of a word. So she's sitting there, she's thrilled to death. She said, oh yes, now read it. So I read the letter out loud and I read the letter and he's telling her about the word enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. And of course, entheos, the Greek root, in God. And the real meaning of enthusiasm, the literal meaning is to be infused with the divine spirit, or to be alive with the Spirit of God. Oh, and I am sitting there and I'm reading it, and Kitty's just tickled pink. She's just, oh, isn't that wonderful? And I'm sitting there and I'm overwhelmed with this awareness. Oh my God, I'm sitting in front of the essence, the embodiment of enthusiasm. I never, ever forgot it. It was so touching. Of course, I never said a word. She didn't see it. Being the great disciple that she was not aware of that at all, of course. Well, I was going to do one more thing, but in order to do it, I have to step off camera for just one moment. So please don't go away and don't think I'm going to not come back, because I am. So hold on, okay? I think, Rosalie, you look like you know what's coming. Do you know what's coming? Oh, I thought you did. Hold on. Bye. I'll be right back.
I guess we can wait a minute, huh?
No. Yes. No. Yes. Please do. Okay.
All right.
I have to, hold on. Wait a minute.
We'll talk amongst ourselves.
I'm almost ready. I have to use my left hand to get, wait a minute.
Oh, now I'm getting an idea of what it is.
Oh, you do, you are? Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Do you all remember Bunny? Now, Bunny, listen, hold on. I got to take my scarf off. Hold on. The reason now, Bunny, listen, honey. No. Don't go. No. We're not going that way. No. You're going to come this way. What's the matter? You're feeling shy? I know. But you know, I told you this. I told you about today, didn't I? Yeah. Well, are you going to come out and say hello? Well, hold on. Wait a minute. I got to make this a little more visible for you. Okay. Now listen, Bunny. Oh, hi. There you are. Okay. Oh my gosh. Now, Bunny, I think people would like to see your face. What's the matter? Now listen, you remember, you know what? All these people love Baba, and guess what? They love Kitty. Yeah, I know. All right, come on. All right, come on. Okay, come on. Say hello. Oh, you show your Baba button? Yeah, that's a nice button, isn't it? Yeah. You know, the reason I brought Bunny out, he really has been retired for quite a while, is because Kitty adored Bunny, absolutely adored him. I mean, I wish you could have seen her face. I have a photograph that is not scanned in, so I can't share the screen, even though I don't even know how to do that, share the screen, but I do have the photo. If I plopped it against the little eye green thing, it might show, huh? Should I try?
Yes, please give it a try.
I don't know.
There's no professionals here.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, yes.
Can you see
Yes.
the look on her face? Wait a minute. Yeah, the joy on her face. I mean, oh, and this is what she would do. You want to tell them about how Kitty would play with you? Yeah, okay. She would go, oh, and have you been a good boy? Everybody would say yes, of course. Ooh, and have you had your carrots today? Yes. Yes. And do you love Baba? Yes. So she just loved him. So she loved you very much. Yes. That's right. And you already showed your Baba button. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. That's a good one, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. We have lots of happy memories together. Did I wake you up? I did, didn't I? He's very old, you know. Bunnies don't live as long as this one. He has lived, Charles, my brother Charles, and Carol Swanson Teich went in on him together because he's a Steiff puppet. And those of you who know puppets, Steiff, they're very, very expensive. They are the top toy companies, one of the top in the world. And that's why you look so good. Yeah, he looks really good. Oh, you're not supposed to agree. No. And that was 74 or 5, I'm not sure. So he's over 40 years old. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I had to tell your age. All right. Yeah, say bye-bye. We got to let other people have a chance to share. Why? Because, you know, that's how it goes. We do have to share, don't we? Bye-bye. Blow a kiss. Blow a kiss. Okay, you ready?
Yes. And we got it. I think we got it, Bunny. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh,
I didn't
Wendy.
go on too long.
No, well, you could go on much longer. We're so grateful you're here.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. I'm so happy Karen reminded me because she had told, where are you, Karen? Where's Karen? Oh, there you are. No, that's not you. Oh, there you are. Hi, honey. You know, it gets so confusing to me how everybody pops around. I don't know why that happens. You'll be in one place and then I look and you're not there anymore. Anyway, she reminded me because I mean, you had sent the email out, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm here. That's the main thing. Much
It
love,
is.
everyone. It's lovely to see your faces. My God, this is one of the gifts of the pandemic. Aren't there unexpected gifts? And this is one of them. Oh my God.
Yes, it is. Jay Baba, sweetheart. Well, I was going to ask Dana Ferry if she wanted to share something. Since Dana spent time with Kitty, I know she's got some stories and some Kittyisms to share.
Sure.
Thanks.
Well, I first met Kitty over the phone because Billy Baum had told me, I was very new to Baba. He said, Nell and I are going to take you down to the Center for Amrtithi, so you must call up the center and get a place to stay. So I called up, but it was only 2 weeks before Amrtithi of 1971, and I got Kitty on the phone, and she said, oh, are you very interested in Mayor Baba? And I said, yes, I'm very interested. She said, well, I suppose 3 months is long enough to become very interested in Mayor Baba. But the center is completely full. Now, do you know anyone staying here? And I said, well, yes, I know the captain. She said, oh, very good. They'd love to have you stay in the cabin right with them. And she's here right now. I'll ask her. And of course, what could she say? She was right there with Kitty. So it was set. I went down to the center. And my first meeting in person with Kitty was classic. I was very young and very new to Baba, and I was very concerned that I had to make a confession right away, that I was full of hatred for who? Melvin Laird, the Secretary of Defense. And I said, Kitty, I know Baba doesn't want us to hate anyone, but I hate Melvin Laird. She said, oh, very good, very wonderful, very good. Baba can turn that hatred right into love. He can turn it right into love. He doesn't like anything lukewarm. So she dispatched that problem right away. Whenever I think of Kitty, I just think of kindness, unlimited kindness, and inclusion. And everybody knows the story about Baba saying, ask me for anything, I'll give you what you ask for. And she asked for unlimited or greater capacity to serve and greater capacity to love. And she had those. She had that in her nature in everything she did. And I think of her as being kindness in the ultimate sense of kindness as a true friend who was directing everyone towards Baba. Her service to Baba was to find your service to Baba. She helped direct everybody else towards their service for Baba. And another little story about I worked at Dilruba for Kitty and Elizabeth for quite a while, and she'd sent me into the center for something, I can't remember what, but she'd sent me in to do one very specific thing and to return to Dilruba. And I came back and she said, oh, you got distracted. You did something else. You got distracted. And I said, no, Kitty, I went in and did the exact thing you asked me to do and came right back. She said, oh, but why did it take you so long? I said, Kitty, I'm just not as quick as you are. She said, oh, I was born too soon and I've always been fast ever since. Kitty got very excited about wonderful, sort of simple things in life. Everything interested her. As Wendy said, she was enthusiastic about everything. And one day I was serving lunch there for Kitty, Elizabeth, and Margaret. And Kitty got very excited that I was probably 30 at the time. And she was very excited that I was going to be dining with 3 octogenarians. Oh, you're going to have lunch with 3 octogenarians. And then to top it off, Edith Bradbury walked in. She said, oh, 4 octogenarians. You're going to have lunch with 4 octogenarians. And she was just jumping up and down with joy. She was so excited about this. But her kindness was evidenced in so many adorable ways. In one very cute way, one day I decided that the books in the kitchens needed a little attention, that they were looking a little raggedy and disorganized. And I said, Kitty, you know, I'd like to add something to the books in the kitchen. Could we do something about that? She said, that would be fine. That was a good idea, but I must go and consult with so-and-so who had the job of organizing the books in the kitchen so she wouldn't feel displaced. And of course, when I went to so-and-so actually had given up that job as far as she was concerned. She was quite happy to have it taken over. But it was just a little lesson that Kitty was so careful about not displacing anyone. You know, that it was just a little lesson for me. When Kitty was near the end of her life, she had a surgery in the Grandstand Hospital, and just classic Kitty. She wakes up out of anesthesia, and what are the first words out of her mouth? Have the nurses had their lunch yet? Imagine having the presence of mind to being so oriented towards others that half consciously, that's your first thought. But that was Kitty. It was just natural to her, absolutely natural to her. At the end of her life, Kitty, well, she was always intuitive, but the intuition came out more, I think, more and more as she became more elderly and infirm. These things would just surface. And one time there was kind of an interesting thing that was happening. She was having us read to her from Churchill's autobiography, and we were reading to her from Churchill's autobiography about the Boer War. And she was walking around the dining table on her walker, completely silent while I read this, but we were all reading from this at different times. And it dawned on me as I was reading, I went, oh my God, there's a parallel to what's going on in the world right now today. It was the first Gulf War, I think. And there was a description in the Churchill's autobiography of the two sides of the war, the Boer War, I think it was, where one side was very primitively armed and one had a very sophisticated armed army against it. And this was a very similar thing that was going on in the Gulf War. And it just dawned on me, and I stopped. And Kitty immediately said, keep reading, don't stop. Who knows what was going on, but there was something going on. One thing Kitty did towards the end of her life was she would phone people up. Just when you thought she wasn't really that aware of her surroundings, because she was really very infirm at this point. She'd say, call up so-and-so. And you'd call up the person, and she'd say one or two sentences to the person, and then that would be it. And it was her last contact with that person. It came back to us later from various people. You have no idea the timing of that call and how it pulled me out of the doldrums, how it helped me so much. It was exactly when and what I needed to hear from Kitty. So this was Kitty, just constantly serving, constantly loving, constantly inclusive. She included everybody. She took all the workers, she took all of her helpers out to lunch at Latif's. Whether she was really up to going or not, she made sure everybody had at least one or more than one lunch at Latif's. Anyway, could go on and on about Kitty, but that's what I wanted to share.
Beautiful, Dana. Thank you. Yeah, you bring her to heart. Jim?
She's everybody's friend.
Everybody's friend, exactly. And then all the older people that we would bring, you know, the parents and the aunts and the great aunts, take them to Kitty. Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
You just brought back a memory of my parents when they met Kitty, and it was just astounding. And it actually, there was a follow-up to it 40 years later with my father, but that's another story. There's so many stories with Kitty, but the one that came up for me in particular for this moment was the first time that I met her in I think Christmas 71. I was 18 or 19, and I had written saying, you know, I want to come to the center, and she wrote back, said, yes, you know, come to the book room, and then we'll have dinner. And at that time, I was doing what I thought was a very sophisticated macrobiotic diet. So I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, she's so spiritual. I'm going to have an incredible dinner with her. You know, she's going to be an incredible vegetarian or something like this, some kind of a fantasy. So the months go by and I go in this Christmas time and I'm in Kitty's room with her and we do our conversation. It takes, like an hour, I guess. And we, oh yes, and now it's time to go have dinner. And we go walking into the kitchen. And as she's pulling plates and things out of the cabinets on top and this and that, oh yes, yes, I don't like feeling separate from those in the original kitchen. As she's saying that, she's opening up a can of Spam and it plops right on this plate. And that was our main course for the dinner. And that totally, blew that whole quote unquote spiritual thing away. That was my first visit and first meeting with Kitty. And I wanted to bring that across. That's it.
Thanks, Jim. That's great.
I will bring up one more because of the parents. My parents came to the center and they were very materialistic. I mean, there was not a word of spirituality, quote unquote, in our family growing up. So they came in Christmas '81. And I was wondering how this one was going to go because, I mean, I had my relationship with Kitty and it was totally different than my parents. So I was concerned how this was going to come off. And they actually stayed on the center for a week, which was to me incredible. But when they met Kitty, here we are in Del Ruba in the living room for at least an hour. And it was absolutely stunning to watch Kitty absolutely be right there with them on their level. It was quite a lesson. And they're talking about shopping and shoes and sailing and golf and anything mundane. It had nothing to do with anything quote unquote spiritual, but yet she was so with them. And that I carried that for years. It was a stunning thing to see because it was so natural. It was not oh, look, Kitty, she's playing like to be with it. No, she was with them. Fast forward to 2015, a year before my father died. My mother had already passed. And I was going through my phone and I had these photos that I had digitized and I was showing him these pictures. And there's this one picture of my wife, Robin, like face to face with Mara. And Mara's going like this, looking into Robin's eyes. And it's an incredible photo. And my dad looks at it and goes, oh my gosh, I remember her. I think we met her. And I said, no, you actually met Kitty, not Mara. He goes, oh, but they had the same vibe. And, this was a mind blower. I mean, this had not even been talked about since 1981, so that's my contribution.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you, Jim. I'm glad you brought that second story.
Yeah.
Tina, you're up.
Yeah, well, I wanted to show Wendy, I have a kitty puppet. Oh, wait. I minimized my screen so I can't see what I'm doing. Can you see it now?
Yes, we see it clearly.
Okay, this is the kitty puppet in honor of our darling Kitty. I remember just a few short episodes that I'm trying to get it all together here, but it's a little difficult. Anyway, Jane Brown told me that, Kitty would, have meetings with people that would come in there and tell her the most intimate details of their marriage, their sex life, their this, their that. And she would be totally unfazed and she would advise them. And, even though she never experienced that before, they said, that she really helped them. Another episode was when Shireen, Baba's great niece, she told this story in a talk she gave. And she once went to Kitty's office after her visit at the center. She'd been there a week. And she said, well, I guess they paid at Kitty's office in those days, but she said, yeah, I have some traveler's checks and I'm going to write them out for you. And so Kitty said, oh, no, you're Bubba's family. There's absolutely no charge for you. And she tore up the traveler's checks into little bitty pieces, which of course is like tearing up money. And then the other thing that someone once told me, and I don't really know if it's true, but they said that as Kitty lay dying, she was saying some numbers, and just over and over these particular numbers. I don't remember what they were, but that turned out to be the exact time that she died, drew her last breath. So I thought that was interesting. So bye-bye from Kitty.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Tina. Miguel, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Well, first of all, her liveliness is felt in this meeting. I can feel her happiness, and it's a different vibe than other meetings that we had. And so I really feel it. And secondly, I really thank Cathy Riley for her book. It was just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book about her life with Kitty and Elizabeth, and really very special. I had the good fortune of coming once to Myrtle Beach, and it was in '91, and it was on the 2nd of December. And that night I went to sleep. I came and I registered and I asked to see Kitty Davy if it would be possible. And I went to sleep, and I don't know what time she left her body, but suddenly I woke up from a being in the room, from a swift wave of a being in the room, passing through the room. And I said to myself, what, in Baba's Myrtle Beach there can be ghosts like that, I thought. And then I went, because I woke up because it was so strong. I went out, I think it was sunrise at that time. Someone came out and said, Kitty Davy passed away. What time did she pass away? What time was it?
She passed away at 10 minutes of 5 in the morning.
Yeah, so that figures, because the sun was already rising. And when I went out, someone told me Kitty Davy passed away. And then I figured that she just, within the years, I figured that she just went through every one of the places that people were there, every one of those huts that she took care of all her life. She just passed through because it was so swift, it was so strong, and I felt it so strongly. And it left its impression on me very strongly. So I was near the lake, and I made a wreath of branches of the tree, and I took it to Dilruba's, to her, not to Dilruba, to Saroja's library, and put it there near Baba's picture in her honor. And I was very fortunate to stay all the time that all the services were on for Kitty. And since then, I feel such a closeness to her, and such a special closeness, such a special feeling with her. At that time, it was a very magical time. It was the only time that I was in Myrtle Beach, and very precious. I felt it was a very precious gift to me from her, because before that, she did ask people to send letters to me. I think Cathy wrote me a letter by her bedside, when she was by her bedside one night. And I felt that she was waiting for me. And I don't know, but it was very special. I feel very connected to her. So she was a dear soul. And just feeling her energy right now, you know, it's a special energy. We're all happy and smiling and laughing. And it's this jumpy energy of hers. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, Kitty. You're very beautiful. And when I was in Mehrabad and I used to clean the shrines, and whenever I used to come to Kitty's shrine, like this, I used to smile. And she has this energy and it's still coming through everywhere. So, Sheva.
Jay, Papa Miguel, you hit the nail on the head. Jeff Wolverton.
Can you hear me at all?
Oh, yeah. Loud and clear.
Well, I had many delightful experiences with Kitty over the years. I used to think of her as the embodiment of whimsicality. You never knew what might suddenly, pop into her head, And but I wanted to share something that was another aspect of Kitty, and many of us have had that that she, many kind of amazing things would happen around her because of her direct connection with Baba, the very heart of all of creation. And so you talked about someone finding their calling. Well, I'll go back in, this is around maybe late 70s, early 80s, I don't know, but Tim Busfield came down from Michigan and he came down in the summer and he was going to live in Myrtle Beach. He was getting odd jobs, and he and I were roommates. And he, we did some little skits and everything like that. And he was a lot of fun. He was only about 19 or something. I can't remember. But one day he comes home and he says, I have to leave. I have to leave Myrtle Beach. I talked with Kitty and she said, oh, you're the actor. You're the one that's destined to be an actor. You've got to go get your training and go to Hollywood. So she rattles this. So he comes in, he's like, God, I'm leaving, and so what he does is he goes to, Nashville. I think he gets a couple of years of training. He goes to Hollywood. Not only that, she told him that he would always never want for work. And she even described a great period of suffering that he was going to have to go through. And when you were talking with Kitty, sometimes Bob would kind of elbow Kitty out of the way, and you kind of get a direct interview with Bob, and then Kitty would come back as if she, as if she had no idea what had transpired. But I mean, I kind of experienced that over the years, and other people have. But anyway, so he goes out, and he goes on to a very successful career. And then on one occasion, he comes back to Myrtle Beach and, has an interview with Kitty. And he tells her that he's going to go to Israel to shoot a film. And she said, oh, well, then there's Carrie Ben-Shammai. You must contact her when you're there. So she gives him the information and he goes to Jerusalem and he's there. And as soon as he's free, he makes an attempt to get a hold of Carrie Ben-Shammai. Now, Carrie Ben-Shammai was the only one from Israel who met Baba, who came here and met Baba in Myrtle Beach. And she had been either the daughter of one of the very important religious figures there, Orthodox Judaism, or it might have been her husband, or I think it's her father. But she was very outspoken about her life with Baba, and I think she was ostracized for her openness and everything. But anyway, so he kind of innocently calls a number, and the person at the other end says, "Oh, you don't want to have anything to do with her. Don't even, forget. We're not, forget about her. She's basically saying she's an undesirable person." Hangs up. So Tim is, kind of like he's not going to let that stop him. So the next day when he's free, he calls the same number. And he must have got a different person, and that person very reluctantly says where she lives. So he hires gets a taxi, and he goes and he tells where he wants to go, and then the cab driver says, that's a very bad part of town. I don't know if I want to go over there, but Tim kind of pushes it, and so the guy he takes it to this place, and it really is a little bit of a dangerous part of the city. And he tells the cab driver, now you wait here, I'm just going to go inside here. The cab driver says, no, I'm not waiting here, give me my money, and he takes off. So he goes in, and it's kind of like a boarding house, and he goes there and says he would like to see Carrie Ben Shammai. The person is very resistant to letting him go and see her, but he kind of persists. And so they finally, the person there is a kind of a boarding house. It gives him the key. So he goes down this hallway, and I'm remembering this after 40 years. I don't know if I got it all right, but he goes down this hallway. Now, he's a fearless guy, but it's a little bit scary. It's kind of dark and everything. And he comes to the door, and he knocks on the door. There's no answer. So he, inserts the key and opens it. He steps in there, and there's a woman with his back to him looking out a small window in this small room. And she turns around and gives him a scowl. And then he says, I've just come from Kitty. She wanted for me to contact you. She falls at his feet, sobbing. And she says that I felt Baba had left me, and I had just asked Baba for a sign. So imagine, whatever, 5,000 miles away, Kitty in her office, the timing of this. And she was just sobbing, and he could see, wow, how much Kitty knew. So anyway, that's, there are a lot of stories I could tell, but that gives you an idea of what a lot of people experience in their contact with Baba, with Kitty, that were so poignant and so often very helpful. Like in Tim's life, his whole career, she put him on just by her intuition. Anyway, that's my story. J. Bob.
J. Baba Jeff, that's such a beautiful story. And don't forget to bring covered shoes to walk on the snakes.
Yeah.
Wendy, did you want to share something, dear? I thought you...
Thank you, Ruth. It was something that Dana there you are. Dana reminded me of. It's such a great story of something that Baba said to Kitty that I knew you would love to hear. You all, I think, know that Kitty had a hysterectomy with Baba's permission. Of course, it was necessary in the 30s. Cathy, I don't know what year, it was in the 30s, wasn't it? Yeah. And she, back then, of course, it was a long recovery, unlike now. And she was delighted because she had time off. She was very happy about it. But, so they meet, Baba calls them to Portofino. I think it's Portofino. I'm not sure. Anyway, somewhere in Europe. I think it's Portofino in the 30s. Yes. And Baba's at breakfast one morning with Herbert, Kitty's brother. And he's drawing Herbert out about how is Kitty. Oh, she's all right, Baba. She's did the operation went well. Well, Baba knew that. They had let him know. But Baba said, is she recovering all right? Is she all fully recovered now? And said, yes, Baba. But Baba, she doesn't sleep well. And anybody who knows Kitty knows that Kitty rarely slept more than 3-4 hours a night. Rarely, if that. And so Baba said, oh, really? Oh, called Kitty here. They were having breakfast. And he said, well, go get Kitty. So Kitty comes, Herbert brings Kitty back. Kitty sits down and Baba draws out Kitty's with Baba, how's your health? Baba's sign, her health. Kitty, how's your health? You know what? Baba wasn't doing signs then, but I love them. Sorry, he was doing the board. But if he was doing it now, it'd be, how's your health? And Kitty said, oh yes, Baba, I'm fine. Oh yes, everything went well. Yes. Well, you know, Kitty, Herbert tells me you don't get much sleep. Is that so? Oh yes, Baba, never have, never have. Yes. How much do you get? How much sleep do you get? Oh yes, Baba, 3 hours, 4 hours. Baba went, oh, so much? Baba said, I only get half an hour. Half an hour. And she said, oh, you know what? I forgot the most important line. She says, oh yes, Baba. Oh yes, Baba. I get the fidgets, you know. I get the fidgets, you know. Remember how she called her, she had restless leg syndrome and she had terrible arthritis that she believed began with her field hockey accident when she was 12. She was slapped in the leg, hit with a stick, hockey stick, had a huge cavity. You probably wouldn't have seen it unless you were close enough to help her undress at night. Big cave in her, below her knee. And the arthritis set in there, but her legs would just jump like this all the time at night. So Baba, so she called them the fidgets. So Baba says, oh, you get the fidgets. He said, yes, Baba. So then he said, don't worry, Kitty. I will use your fidgets for my work. And you will have that much more time to think of me being awake. The reason I thought of it is because Cathy, you told the story, where's Cathy? I mean, Dana told the story of reading Churchill to her and the Boer War coming out and having a feeling that Baba was doing something. Well, I've never had an experience until this night with Kitty that was sort of otherworldly, woo-woo, you know, I don't have those kind of experiences anyway, but with Kitty. But this night, it was January 16th, and Kitty could not go to sleep. I mean, her legs were bouncing off the bed, just flying up. And I heard her. I mean, it was a miracle that I did, but she got up. What she would do is get up and walk. That was the only way that she could stop the pain and the fidget. So she would walk with her walker. So I came and I walked with her, but she was so exhausted that she kept falling into the walker, into me. So I kept holding her up and walking with her. And this went on all night long. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, she goes, oh, she started talking out loud. She goes, her eyes are closed. She's going, oh, it's so dark. Oh, Baba, it's so black. Oh, Baba, the holes, the black holes, the guns, Baba, the guns. She's talking to Baba like this. I'm getting goosebumps. I don't know what's going on, of course. I haven't got a clue. And that morning, we were up all night, not a wink of sleep. The next morning, we find out that was the night of the Desert Storm. That was the day Desert Storm began. And it was the mining of the harbor with the bombs. So that was the only time I felt Baba working through her fidgets. Anyway, so thank you for letting me share that. You reminded me, Dana.
Thank you, Wendy. Fidgets. All right. Let's see. Anne McElvoy, you took your hand down. I don't know if you'd like to speak.
Unmute, honey.
Yeah, there. Oh, me? Yeah.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are, honey. Go ahead. Well, you were. Now you're not. Not. Unmute again.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, ma'am. Hooray.
I was friends with a Baba lover named Peck Kenny in Atlanta. Well, Peck loved Baba very much, and Peck loved the center very much. But Peck was bipolar, and had a lot of health issues aside. And he was, when I met him, he was no longer allowed to come to the center because he was disruptive when he had his bipolar breakdowns, because like many people, he didn't take his pills. He was also gay and he was dying of AIDS. And I was friends with him and I was helping take care of him. And I was there one Sunday and Kitty called. And he talked for a little bit and I asked him afterwards, oh my gosh, how come Kitty called? He said, she has called me every Sunday since I had to stop, since I not been allowed to go to the center. It had been years, and every Sunday she called him until he died. So that's just incredible about what, you know, she did for somebody. It was incredible. Just wanted to share that.
Beautiful. And thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
And Susan. Go ahead, Suze.
Oh, you unmuted me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, a while back, people were talking about how Kitty put other people first. And I always felt kind of special because I have the same birthday as Kitty, August 28th. And we were living in, I think, pretty new to living in North Myrtle Beach. So it was probably early, mid 70s. And, you know, at that time, her birthdays were held at the Cabana at Briarcliff. And this one birthday, I just, you know, I didn't go, or I went late. And Kitty saw me come in and she said, oh, where have you been? I've been waiting to cut the cake with you. Oh man, that was so sweet of her. I also remember her deep thinking about Baba's words. And thinking about it now again, because reading God Speaks, which is how I've kept sane during this COVID time, is the word consciousness. And she was one day in the office says, you know, it's all consciousness. That Baba used that word so many times, consciousness. And so I just admired her thinking and sharing her thinking as it was ongoing, because not all of Baba's Mandali and so on would be that open about their current thinking of what was going on. And I always appreciated that. She's pulled me out of more than one pivotal time in my life. But my first trip to the center in 74, of course, she had her book room and everybody would go to the book room. And I was living in Connecticut in a commune, and it was like 4 years after graduating college with a psych and philosophy degree. What could I do with that? I didn't want to go to grad school. Psychology was all behaviorism at the time. Anyway, and I got this picture of Baba. He's standing at Arthur's seat. And every time I looked at it, it said, go to Boston, go to Boston, go to Boston. And I ended up going to Boston and that's where I met Daryl. And that was a big change from me because I'd grown up in Connecticut, Rhode Island, hadn't been to Massachusetts except for early on. And I left all my comforts, friendships and familiar, never lived in a city. And I went to Boston, actually Cambridge. I went to the Cambridge book room there. And I don't know how, but you know, I moved into Stu Baker's apartment. And it all worked out. But yeah. And lastly, I would just say, yes, she did meet my parents too. My dad was a Methodist minister. Cathy writes about the meeting in her book. But I am just really struck with how many different people she met. And just like Baba could meet people on whatever level, wherever they were coming from, she had this ability to connect, which isn't an easy thing to do with such a variety of people, you know, with their attitudes and their backgrounds. And I felt that was really Baba-like. And when she was really, she gave advice but didn't give advice. Like when I came to it a pivotal time in my career, you know, I said what happened, but it was such a funny way, the way she would not exactly give advice, but she would. Maybe someone can speak to that, because I don't know how she she did that, but she was very careful not to say, well, no, you should do this or you should go there or whatever. But somehow, you know, she gave me advice at an important time in my life when everything was falling apart. And so that's all. Thank you, Kitty. Thank you, Baba.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We have one more person, and that's Judy. Hi, Judy.
Hi there. Oh, this has been a wonderful sharing. And I have just one tiny vignette from the India side of the day that Kitty passed. December 3rd of 91, I was a resident at the time at Mehrabad. And I was in the trust office when the call came in that Kitty had passed. And time stopped, work stopped. There was this silent but joyful sense of, oh, on one hand, we've lost Kitty, but the sense of joy, the deepest sense was she has come home. You know, all of you know probably even better than I how much Kitty wanted to be back with Baba in India. But he had the work that all of you have so beautifully shared that she did there at Myrtle Beach for all of those years. But the day that she was free of her body, in a very significant way, she came home to the Baba that she had known and loved at Mehrabad. And there was such joy in her remembrance, as we've had today. At that moment, her Baba, I was in Lonnie's office, her Baba sisters and brothers that she lived with those decades before held her in such loving and joyous esteem. It was a very special and memorable day and moment for me, certainly. So thank all of you for your shares to waken my heart with joy, and especially that little rabbit that I think I delighted in Wendy's rabbit as much as Kitty must have. Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai Baba, Judy. Thank you. We'll have a quick moment of silence and Jai Baba. If everybody want to unmute, we can all say our key J's. Avatar.
Thank you, Ruth and Karen, for facilitating. It was just wonderful.
Thank you so much.